Hey guys, week 5 is now in the books. Another great week. Sorry for the delay on making this recap. I'm working afternoons right now, and just the hours and how they work. I found it difficult to either make this before work or after work. It's just the way it's been going. Anyways, after 5 weeks, both divisions are quite interesting. We've got a lot of teams that are 3-2 in the NFC. And then in the AFC, you got me and Riley kind of leading the pack after a big win for Riley this week against Gavin. Some really exciting games. So I'm just going to go over some of the rankings here. Number 1 overall after 5 weeks is Riley. Little Sebastian leading the charge at 4-1 in the AFC with 638.82 points scored. His team is well-rounded. It's powerful. It's really good. And it's very surprising still, I think, considering the fact that Riley's never been a football fan. And this is the first time he's ever played fantasy football. So it continues to be very impressive. Number 2 overall in our league is Finkel Einhorn. That's you, Steve. At 3-2 in the NFC, so you actually have 2 losses, but are second overall because you are first in the NFC with 586.36 points scored over 5 weeks. And then number 3 overall, which would be 2 if we didn't have it broken up by division, is me, the Super Camario Bros, at 4-1, tied with you, Riley, 626.96 points scored. And then unfortunately, in last place at number 12, sitting at the bottom of the AFC is the Magic School Bus. That's you, Bryce, at 0-5 with 503.22 points scored over 5 weeks. And you had a very tough week against my dad, losing by 0.58 points. Man, that's rough. That is rough. You were so very close to getting your first W. But hey, you can keep battling. 0-5. I can't say I've ever seen anyone come back from 0-5, but there's always a first, right? I believe in you, Bryce. You can do it. Just work hard here. David Johnson, maybe McCoy will start getting the rock and doing some things for you. Who knows? Yeah, and the NFC has 4 teams tied at 3-2 after 5 weeks, which I thought was pretty cool. So it's an open race in the NFC. And just remember, everybody, $50 goes to the winner of each division. So these rivalry games, these in-division games are really vital. Which now in week 6, beginning in this coming up week, we start our out-of-conference games. So the NFC and the AFC will be battling each other, and you will be up against your conference rival this week. So for me, that's you, Kyle. I believe for Gavin, it's Drew, and so on and so forth. I tried to kind of match it up so it's someone you knew or someone that, a rivalry would kind of make sense. Now, because I'm doing this so late, I have, as I announced earlier on in the week, there was a pretty darn big trade. Wow, I have it written on here as Devon Freeman. It's Devonta Freeman, who Andrew gets from Shane for Sammy Watkins. Pretty cool trade. Obviously, Shane, you're not too high on Devonta Freeman after he's been battling injuries. He was out for the last 2 or 3 weeks. He's finally coming back this week, so I can see why Andrew is very excited to get him. And then sent back the other way Sammy Watkins to you, Shane, which Sammy Watkins has flashed some of that potential that I think everyone was hoping to see when he was in Buffalo and also in LA for that very short period. He's looked pretty good. So I think this trade could go either way. It really comes down to Devonta Freeman's health and whether he gets the opportunity, because it is becoming a bit of a crowded backfield just with Coleman there. Kind of vulturing a lot of the carries. So I see this trade as kind of like a team need thing. So Shane, if you were thinking you need a wide receiver, then that works for you. And Andrew, obviously needing a running back, it works for you. Just personally, I feel like Devonta Freeman might be more of a headache moving forward. But at the same time, I think his upside's a bit higher than Sammy Watkins. So I'm going to give the slight edge to to Andrew on this one, but it's close. You could argue both ways on that trade. I like it. I thought it was a very fair trade. We also had another trade happen, which I don't know if many of you saw because there was another trade to reverse it. It's actually quite hilarious how this worked out. So Riley, Mr. Fantasy Football Pro, apparently, he traded away Jay Ajayi and Tyrell Williams to Matt Winter for Chris Hogan and Latavius Murray. It's not an overly exciting trade. I can see the big name in this trade was Jay Ajayi, I would say. And they pulled off the trade. I accepted it. It went through. And then I think it was literally about 2 hours later, maybe at most, that it was announced that Jay Ajayi is going to be out for the season with a torn ACL. So thankfully, Riley, being the considerate GM he is, and he was not an asshole, he decided, you know what? I'm going to be a nice guy. I'm going to take the trade back. So they did the same trade back. They reversed it. Now it's like it never happened. But I thought it was pretty darn funny. You don't see that very often. Riley, you said you had no idea. Maybe you did, though. Maybe you have a source. You're like, oh, fuck, I got to get rid of Jay Ajayi right now before they announce the news. If that were the truth, you pulled it off quite beautifully. Now, after 5 weeks, as I like to do, just go over kind of like the all-star team, as I like to call it, the top dogs in each position, if you were to create the perfect lineup. Kind of like you like to see after each week in DK, you like to see like what that top lineup is. So after 5 weeks, the top QB is Patrick Mahomes with 133.12 points. Todd Gurley's the top running back, obviously. After Alvin Kamara slipped this past week, he had a down week. But don't worry, guys, I'm not worried. Fuck, I don't care. Number 2 is Alvin Kamara with 124. The number one wide receiver after 5 weeks, Adam Thielen with 100.4 points. He's been outstanding. I was convinced that Stephon Diggs would be Mr. Performer this year. I think you guys heard me mention this before, the Matt Harmon reception perception. Stephon Diggs is the closest thing to Antonio Brown based on routes. I think I fucked this up last time. Basically on the success of their routes run. And his profile matched up perfectly with Antonio Brown. I was thinking, you know what? Everything lines up. Kirk Cousins, he's a very, very talented quarterback. I felt like this is the year that Stephon Diggs is going to be the guy. And I think that kind of brought down Adam Thielen's his kind of value going into the draft. So, Riley, you were able to pick up Adam Thielen as your second wide receiver, which is unbelievable because you got Devontae Adams to begin with. Anyways, Adam Thielen's number 1. Number 2 is my boy, Cooper Kupp, who is concussed right now. I'm a little bit worried about it. He has been a touchdown machine. Touchdowns go a long way. They add up quickly, and I've been reaping the benefits because of that. I love how Goff I don't know why. I feel like Cooper Kupp, not to bring race into this, but being a white receiver, he looks like the most average athletic guy. He doesn't look like anything special. I assume he runs good routes. He just somehow gets open. He's not even that blazing fast, but he gets the job done. He's a grinder. He's kind of a guy you can't help but root for, and he's become one of my, early favorite guys. But yeah, Cooper Kupp's number 2, which is a huge surprise. I don't expect him to keep that up, especially being concussed right now. Michael Thomas has slipped down to number 3 with 88.9 points after 5 weeks. He's still being great. He had another down week, but I don't think it's anything to worry about for anyone who owns New Orleans Saints players. They're on bye this coming week. So I think some guys might have been battling kind of minor injuries, and they were trying to slot in other guys last week in week 5. Number 1 tight end is Travis Kelce with 72.7 points, which I freaking hate that because Gavin has him after giving away creaky hips. I hope that he loses that spot. Melvin Gordon is the top flex player with 113. He's catching up to Kamara. He's catching up. Melvin Gordon, what a workhorse this guy is. He just keeps on doing it. Keeps on trucking. And then the best defense, even after their bye week, is still the Chicago Bears. Wow. I'm pumped to have him back this week. Now, because I'm doing this today, I can kind of go over the waiver wire quickly for you guys. Also, if you're wondering, like, when I do this video, like, the positioning here, this is one of those really, really comfortable IKEA chairs. You know, this is my chair. We're in my gaming room. This is my setup. I'm not really, I decided to just set this up down here on the leg rest. So it's kind of lower, kind of a weird upward angle here, but it is what it is, right? Blue Jays behind me. Not bad. Not bad. Anyways, what am I rambling on about? What is it right now? Like 1:47 a.m. So this might be an interesting one. But I'm enjoying this so far. All right, so we had our waiver wire. I was truly pumped about this. Corey Clement was the top bidded on guy, and I got him for $16. Andrew and Matt Winter, you guys freaking bid on him too, and you bid $15 each. So I beat you out by $1. Nothing feels better than winning a bid by $1. It's like you didn't waste a single fab penny. You just scraped in and you got him. And oh man, the funny thing about it is I actually put in a bid for, I believe, $23, thinking, I don't know, I thought people might bid 20. I thought, you know what? Let's squeak her down a bit. I don't feel comfortable spending that much. So I brought it down. 16 worked out perfectly, and I am truly happy about that because Kamara's on bye, so I need Corey Clement to get her done for me here. The number 2, actually I noticed this later, was Ryan Grant. Blake got Ryan Grant for $15, which I thought was a little bit pricey there, buddy. A little bit pricey, but you obviously like him. There's a good chance T.Y. Hilton doesn't play again, so Ryan Grant might kind of quickly become Andrew Luck's number 1 guy. And Andrew Luck throws the ball like 60 times a game, so he's guaranteed to get you points. The number 3 technically spent on waiver wire guy was Robbie Anderson for $12 to Blake. That's 2 big waiver wire ads, 2 big wide receivers. He got him for $12. Dave and myself bid $6 for him. I wasn't totally sold on him, but he did look really good. He broke away for 2 huge touchdowns. He has not been Sam Darnold's favorite target, but he quickly could become it with, like, once Sam Darnold notices the talent that Robbie Anderson possesses and just how this guy is some sort of touchdown vacuum. I don't know what it is. This happened last year too. Late last year, I remember, Kyle, you had him in our fantasy. The guy just seems to find the end zone, usually for a long score. He'll produce. It might be a little bit up and down each week, but overall he's a good wide receiver, and I think he might just get better and better. And then the number 3 bid on, or number 4, I guess technically, sorry guys, Wendell Smallwood. Steve, you grabbed him for $10. You didn't even go for Corey Clement, which I found surprising. I would have expected Wendell Smallwood to be your plan B, but you went in, you grabbed him as your plan A, $10. He could end up being, it's going to be a battle between him and Corey Clement to see who kind of takes over there. It'll probably be split backfield the whole way, but it'll come down to the touchdowns. And I think Corey Clement gets the upper edge on that. I hope. What do I know? I don't really know the Eagles that well, but that's what I've read. And then Bryce bid $5 on him and lost out on that bid, obviously. And then last week, just going over just the top performers of the week, I'm going to do the top 3 quarterbacks. This is kind of funny. This is the first week that we have had the top 3 quarterbacks. It's kind of like a flashback to what fantasy usually is when it comes to quarterbacks. So the top guys, number 1 was Tom Brady, classic. Blake, you have him obviously, and I was saying last week that last week was probably the lowest score he's ever going to have, and moving forward he's going to be putting up 25, 30, 35 points. So this week, 29.54 points, led the way for all quarterbacks. 341 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Great performance from him. They took care of business against Indianapolis. It was basically a rout. It was done by halftime, I would say. Aaron Rodgers is number 2. Finally, Shane. Things are looking up there. Things have been looking a little bit shaky with Aaron Rodgers, but 28.68 points. He tossed for 442 yards. 3 touchdowns, a 2-point conversion. The only concerning thing is he had 2 fumbles. He continues to get hit a ton. I saw a couple of those hits. It's surprising sometimes to see these quarterbacks get up from what they go through, right? Like, you got 350-pound men just jumping on you, breaking your ribs. You'd think, you'd break my ribs. They get up, no big deal, and they throw for a touchdown the next play. It's impressive. Football is it's a scary sport. I wouldn't do it. You couldn't pay me enough to do that. Number 3, Drew Brees, who, Winter, you own. And this was a gigantic week for Drew Brees. As everyone hopefully knows, he passed Peyton Manning for the most career passing yards. And there's also a lot of other records that Drew Brees holds that I dug into this. I wasn't aware how iconic Drew Brees truly is. Like, he's kind of being in the shadows of Peyton Manning, being in the shadow of Tom Brady, even Aaron Rodgers, right? All these guys, these fantasy producers, every year, these guys that end up in the Super Bowl, end up going far in the playoffs. Drew Brees just keeps on getting it done. 72,103 yards is now currently what he's at. Obviously, with every passing game, he's going to... Passing game. That's a good pun. With every game that goes by, he's going to keep upping that record. Keep on upping. And I assume he's going to hold it because Tom Brady is not going to pass it. He's not... There's no way he's going to play longer or long enough. Or is he? Oh. Is he going to play till he's 50? I think I heard that he wants to do that. Come on. Anyways, 72,103. And then Drew Brees holds a bunch of other records. He has the most career pass completions, 6,344. He's got the most pass completions in one season, 471. He has the highest career completion percentage at 67.1, which is beautiful. He has the highest single season completion percentage, obviously, which he set last year at 72%, which is ridiculous. Like, virtually 3 out of every 4 passes he completes. It's nuts. Most touchdown passes in the game. He's tied with a couple other guys with 7 in one game. And he also has the most consecutive games with a touchdown pass. 54 games consecutive. My God, this guy he is guaranteed to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, the flex players, the great 8 as I now call it. We had James Conner lead the charge for you, Gavin, with 32.5 points. He had 110 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 receptions for 75 yards. The guy was the offense for the Steelers, for most of it at least. Antonio Brown had a big piece of it too, as you'll see. He made the list as well. But the Steelers looked great, and James Conner was a huge part of it after having a down week the week prior. So there's all kinds of talks that when Lev Bell eventually gets back, it'll be a bit of a split backfield, which is quite interesting. I'm happy for James Conner. He's looked great. He's earned every chance that he's had. He hasn't just accepted the fact that he's a starter and just kind of played. He's battled and done his best to hopefully retain the role moving forward. The number 2 this week, as per usual, this guy's always up near the top. Todd Gurley, who you have, Steve, 31.3 points. Only 77 yards rushing, but 3 touchdowns. And also he added 36 yards on 4 receptions. The guy is the biggest workhorse in the game. Jared Goff is so spoiled to have someone like this to pass it off to and to hand it off to and to just trust to get the job done when called upon. Number 3 this week is the first surprise, the Crow. Caw-caw. Isaiah Crowell, Kyle, your boy, 29.6 points. 219 yards rushing. I believe most of that was on 2 runs. 1 touchdown and also 1 reception for 12 yards. Now, anyone who owns Jets players, I'm just going to throw this out here. I read that the Broncos, they were on short rest, and then they had to travel out east, which is going back in time. I think it caught up to them. I think they looked tired to me. They could not make tackles. So this was a perfect week for Crowell to kind of prey on that. I'm really hoping this is the truth because I face you, Kyle, this coming week. So hopefully Crowell that was his week. He got out of his system this coming week. Nah, he won't do anything else. Number 4 was OBJ, who you also have, Kyle. It seems all your players are heating up just in time to face me. I like it. 27.38 points, 14 targets, 8 receptions, 131 yards, and 1 touchdown. He also had 57 yards passing on 1 touchdown. 1 passing touchdown. Great play. It was obviously 1 pass, but it was a beautiful pass. to Saquon Barkley. I lie, it was not beautiful. I just remembered it now, flashback in my mind. Saquon Barkley, it was a well drawn up play by the Giants. They had the defense completely fooled. Saquon Barkley was on the far right side of the field, wide open. OBJ goes for the pass. And you need to see the highlight. I swear I remember this correctly. I hope I do. But he lobbed it up so slowly. Like, it was the slowest lob I think I've ever seen. I'm surprised it even made it to Saquon Barkley. And the defense had like time to react. And they almost caught Saquon. Like, I swear to God, he lobbed it up and the defense were like, oh shit, there's a guy open over here. Let's go get him. And they were almost at him by the time the ball made it to Saquon. Luckily, Saquon's unreal. He kind of dodged a tackle and he was gone. But OBJ, man, you're no quarterback. But that obviously, Kyle, you'll take those points. You'll take those points every week. Number 5 was Dave, Mr. Tight End Whisperer. You have Eric Ebron, who put up 27 points. I don't understand this year. You seem to have all these tight ends that are kind of names that aren't flashy, but they are producing. He had 15 targets, 9 receptions, 105 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like, this guy was in Detroit. Every year he was hyped up. It's like, this is the tight end to own. Eric Ebron, look out for this guy. And I would freaking draft him. Did nothing. I think he had like 1 touchdown, like over 2 years or something stupid. Like, he was not a touchdown guy. 2 touchdowns in 1 game for you, and he keeps producing every week. So, who do you start? Dave? Jared Cook? Eric Ebron? Like, that's tough. Number 6. Nope. Number 5. Wait. Whoa. I have too many players here in my grade 8. That's some grade 8 skills I got here. So yeah, number 6 was Saquon Barkley, who you own, Riley. 26.9 points. Only 48 rush yards. But he had 4 targets, 4 receptions, 81 yards, and 2 touchdowns, mostly on that one play from OBJ. And then number 7, Robbie Anderson, who you now own, Blake, 25.8 points. He had only 3 receptions on 5 targets, 123 yards, and 2 touchdowns. 2 huge touchdowns. And then Antonio Brown rounds us out at number 8, who you own, Dave, 25.1 points. He had 13 targets, only 6 receptions though on those 13 targets, 101 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He looks like the Antonio Brown we all hoped he could be. And he will continue to be. All right, on to the matchups. We've got Velvet Buzzsaws. I'll start us off with quite possibly the most exciting matchup in my opinion, because it came down to the freaking wire. Velvet Buzzsaws defeated the Magic School Bus 102.72 to 102.14. It was way too close, as I said earlier. 0.58 points is all that Bryce lost to, knocking him down to 0-5 and pushing Velvet Buzzsaws up to 3-2. Looking over the matchup, you had your new boy Josh Gordon in there. He got you 12 points off his touchdown early in the week on Thursday, Bryce. You had David Johnson producing for you with 20.1 points. Great flex play by Tyler Lockett, 17.9, and your Minnesota D stood tall with 13 points. But it just wasn't enough. Guys like Melvin Gordon with 20 points set you back. AJ Green with 112 yards, putting up 14.2 points. It just wasn't your week. Looking over both your sides, it was very even. No one truly broke away. David Johnson, Melvin Gordon was an absolute wash looking it over. It was 20.1 scored by David Johnson, only 20 by Melvin Gordon. It was tight. Very, very, very tight. The only surprises I have here, and I was very surprised by this, Bryce. I don't know why. You didn't start McCoy. I guess you heard, he's been battling injuries. He put up only 11.8 points. It wasn't like a spectacular game for him. But if you had slotted him in there for Phillip Lindsay Tyler Lockett was the right call. But if you had slotted him in there for Phillip Lindsay, you would have technically got the win. But yeah, it still would have been tight. You had Valdez Scantling on your bench, Bryce. He is very, very interesting just because he had a huge week. He looked great. Him and Rodgers seem to have some sort of chemistry, which is really, really nice to see. And if Allison and Cobb are out again, I would look into starting him, man. He's legit, but you got to check out the injuries. Wow, I said check like 8 times there. Check the injuries, obviously, and see that for sure those guys are out. I'm praying that Allison comes back because I might need him this week. And one ad that I really like that you made, Bryce, was that Dante Foreman. Really nice ad, man. When he comes back, which I believe is week 7 or 8, he hopefully will be taking that job from the very super average, below average Lamar Miller. What a bum, that guy. I'm so tired of seeing him play. Do you guys remember when Miami, he looked so great in Miami, and then Houston signed him, and it was like, this guy is going to be like the next Aaron Foster for these guys. And I drafted him in the first round that year, and he was a joke. Freaking joke. I hate him. On the flip side, my dad made some interesting moves. I liked that he added Baker Mayfield for $10 last week. That was pretty cool. Let's see. He benched Larry Fitzgerald, which was a smart move. 4.5 points only from him. He's been very concerning. I've been very surprised by that. But if you had started Case Keenum, you would have won easier, obviously. But a lot of people were saying that Andy Dalton would have a big game, and he was okay. 13.92 points. All right, let's move on to the next matchup. We had Wally World, who are now 3-2 after taking down Finkel is Einhorn, 119.08 to 92.3. This was another matchup where Wally World was projected to win, and they pulled off the solid W. Man, oh man, Dave, has your season turned around. It's amazing how quickly that can happen. When it looked like things were looking a bit dim, man, you turned it around real quick. The standouts for you, TJ Yeldon with 22.2 points. You had Antonio Brown finally producing like the true Antonio Brown that he is. Cam Newton, solid as always, only 18.38. Well, 18.38 points. I can't say only. An average game for him, but he's... The thing I love about Cam Newton, as I said before, his floor. He's always going to seem to put up at least like 18 points. At least. Every week. On the flip side, you had Deshaun Watson going hard for you, Steve. Which you finally made the right QB decision and it didn't work out for you. You lost it. You lost the game. So maybe the key to your success is actually starting the wrong quarterback. The rest of your team will kind of pick up the slack for you. Which I did not check in and see whether you actually did this. So did you actually try out that Amari Cooper tactic that I told you? You keep him on your bench. You wait just up until about game time. You toss him into your lineup. And you kind of take that stress off of him to perform. He's like, oh, I'm taking this week off. I'm not even in your lineup. You slot him in quick. He's like, oh crap, I got to play. He'll perform. I hope you didn't do that because he did not perform. Only 1.5 points from Amari Cooper. The guy is completely unpredictable. Or he's good one week, bad one week. I don't know. Tough to say. Todd Gurley, your workhorse, 31.3 points, as I said before. Overall, you had a lot of underachievers, Steve, that kind of... I think it actually comes down to Amari Cooper, pretty much. If that guy could just perform how he's supposed to perform as the number one wide receiver, this matchup could have been completely different. Jordan Reed, holy hell, only 1 reception. That was a bit bizarre. You had Will Fuller in your starting lineup, which was a bit... Like, I can see why you did it, Steve. Because you have, like, half your team on bye. You were forced to do it, and also T.Y. Hilton is out. So, yeah, okay. You know what? Your hands were tied. But only 2.5 points from Will Fuller. That was obviously a difference maker as well. And then on the other side, Dave, you had Adrian Peterson go down with his shoulder injury. Only 5.2 points from him. Hopefully he heals up quickly so you can get him back in there because you gave up Travis Kelce for him. So you need Adrian Peterson to perform. And Eric Ebron, Dave, was on your bench putting up 27 points. You didn't need him, luckily. But that would have been the wrong call to put in the used-to-be number one tight end, Jared Cook. And Lev Bell sitting there, Steve, on your bench, sitting there. He's coming. He is coming. I am truly terrified of your Todd Gurley-Lev Bell combination moving forward. Oh, baby. Anyways, it was a great matchup. Now both Dave and Steve are tied in the NFC, which is truly pretty. I love seeing stuff like that. I like seeing a nice tight race, especially early on like this. We don't really have anyone truly pulling away. The top teams, the Super Camario Bros and Riley's, oh my God, Lil Sebastian, 4-1 seems to be the best record at the moment. Let's move on to Shane taking down Andrew, 119.78 to 87.04. This was quite a rout in the end of it all. Looking it over, Aaron Rodgers finally performed up to his standard, and that was huge for you, Shane. You've been dying to have that kind of performance from him, and you needed it this week. DeAndre Hopkins, 17.6 points. Stephon Diggs, 16.6. James White, 18.7. Your team was rolling. For you, Shane, 19 points from Joe Mixon, who I am so excited as a Bengals fan to see him back in there. The guy looks great. He looks like that offense. I had never expected the offense to be clicking the way they are. They did have some trouble against Miami, although I don't believe it was the run game. Joe Mixon was moving the ball. He was showing that kind of, like, I've heard comparisons to Lev Bell. You can't quite compare to Lev Bell. But he was showing that patience, where he's waiting for the hole to open, fighting his way. Like, the guy's got a lot of ability. Really looking forward to seeing how he plays as he kind of adjusts more and more to the NFL. I know he's had, I guess, a fair bit of playing time now, but last year was kind of a hit and miss season, and then this year he was beginning to get rolling, and then he had the injury, and now he looks good. He looks really good, like a top 5 type talent. I would say early on. Although I guess it's still a little bit early to say that the Bengals' offensive line is that improved, but they've looked better. They're getting the job done. But to go on the flip side for you, Andrew, Derrick Henry, that's who you got back for Lev Bell. The guy put up 5.6 points this week, and he is not trending upwards. Doesn't catch the ball. He's not a receiver. Like, you're not even getting those 0.5 points for reception, because he's not even catching it. So, that's tough, man. That is tough. And then looking at your benches, obviously, Andrew, you would have liked to start Carson Wentz over Jared Goff on the other side. And, we're beginning to get into the bye weeks now, and obviously some injuries are catching up to teams. You had, I don't remember that. Shane, you started Uzomah. And you've got Brait on your bench. You got O.J. Howard on your bench. You got a tight end farm going on there. It's quite interesting. And you got Randall Cobb. What a girl. And Lamar Miller, who was just chirping. Oh, man. Randall Cobb's another hated player. Just saying. That guy's gross. And I noticed, Andrew, you picked up Alfred Morris, who was the guy that I dropped. He put up 10.6 points last week. He might have the backfield all to his own this coming week. So that was a good pickup. I was just tired of the guy. He was doing nothing for me. Just so sick and tired of looking at his name on my lineup. All right, on to the next. Now, this was the biggest matchup in the AFC to finish off our in-division matchups. We had the 3-1 Lil Sebastian taking on the 3-1 Toronto Flatliners. Lil Sebastian came out on top and ended up being a rout. 155.96 to Toronto Flatliners, 102.90. Riley's team stepped up to the challenge and knocked down Gavin's. Looked to be almost, your team looked really good until you faced me and lost last week, and then you lose again. Ooh, mama, you are falling down. Riley, Phillip Rivers produced. Devonta Adams had a huge game after half of their wide receiver corps went down with injuries. Adam Thielen, as I said earlier, is just a monster. You got Kenny Golladay. He's quickly becoming potentially the Lions' number 2 receiver. Saquon Barkley keeps crushing. Sony Michel looks great on the Patriots. You got a lot going right for you right now, man. A lot going right for you. And then finally you lose someone with Jay Ajayi. Thank God. And you played the honest GM game and you traded back and you took Jay Ajayi back after completing one of the most piratey kind of trades ever. On the other side, Gavin, losing Brandon Cooks early with the concussion obviously hurt you. He put up a big fat donut. That was unfortunate for you. And then you had a lot of guys like James Conner was a monster. Blake Bortles was also a monster in garbage time. The guy was like did nothing, and then the fourth quarter they just kept getting the ball back and he kept making plays. He ran one in. He was very, very fortunate, I guess you could say. And your bench didn't really do much, Gavin, so it's not like you really made any wrong calls. It just wasn't your week. Ezekiel Elliott, when he only puts up 11 points, it's kind of puts a strain on you. Golden Tate didn't have a good week. Calvin Ridley finally quieted down. Just a quiet week. And then Riley, looking at your bench, Kenyon Drake. He's alive. I tried so hard to vulture Kenyon Drake from you, man, and you wouldn't budge. You were smart. You knew the guy's got potential. He put up 21 points this week, and you watch. He's gonna take off from here. He's gonna take off. And then looking at your bench, Gavin, just some notable things. Doug Baldwin, only 0.6 points, but it was just a weird game for Seattle. I don't know if it was the coverage. The Rams have a great defense. I don't know if he's still, come back from that injury, if he's, a bit slow. He did have injuries to both his knees. You kind of want one knee to lean on, something to keep you sturdy. He's got none. He's got no solid knees. And then Greg Olsen, there's news that Greg Olsen might be coming back this week. What? The guy is invincible. He'll be back until he gets hurt again, so it'll be short-lived. All right, now on to an NFC matchup. This was a beatdown. So, Kyle only put up, 40 points last week? Not a very good week. 157.8 points for the Odell Republic, bashing down the Brady's bunch, who only put up 96.24. This knocked the Odell Republic up to 3-2 and Blake down to 2-3. Wow. That's fantasy football for you. One week, nothing goes right. The next, right? The next week, everything goes right. You had Russell Wilson had a solid game. Odell Beckham finally showed the potential that he has to produce winning weeks for you. 27 points is always nice to see. Demaryius Thomas had a touchdown for you, 19 points. Christian McCaffrey was solid again. You got Mark Ingram back from suspension, 20 points. He embarrassed my boy Kamara. Was Kamara even in the game? What was that about? I'm not even worried. I know what the Saints are doing. They're resting him up. They got a bye week. Just you wait. 2 weeks from now, it'll be the Kamara show again. Gronk, who you finally had now after that big trade with Bryce, although looking now, he is questionable. He was limited at practice. Gronk practicing is optional for him. It's not a big deal. 29.6 points as well from the Crow, which I mentioned earlier. That was probably the difference maker. When you got a guy like the Crow putting up 29 points and OBJ performing, you're not going to lose very often. On the flip side, Blake, you had Tom Brady, 29.54. He was great this week. Kareem Hunt has been looking tremendous. The guy has so much talent. It's kind of weird how it's worked out there. Like 15.9 points is really good. But the only concern with him is just so much of the offense is being through the passing game because Patrick Mahomes is being so efficient. And they need to use Kareem Hunt more in the passing game. It's just Patrick Mahomes doesn't seem to check down very often. So it just doesn't really end up in his hands. But you want to be in those high-scoring offenses because you can vulture those touchdowns. You can get those touchdowns. And then looking at your benches, as per usual, Kyle, maybe you made one mistake for the first time in your coaching career. Mike Williams only put up 6.3, Christian Kirk 16.5. He was kind of the throw-in in that trade, eh? Are you going to hold on to him? Like, he was kind of decent. On the flip side, Blake, you didn't really have anything going on your bench. Nothing. Deshaun Jackson was on bye. Like, nothing really to mention there. So just a beatdown, Kyle. Your team's alive and just in time to take on me this coming week. So look out. I'm making moves. I am prepping. I am not going to make this win easy for you. All right, on to the last matchup. I'm going to get this done. As you can tell, I'm a little bit tired. The Super Camario Bros. 115.6 beat down. Way she goes. 98.32. Knocking me up to 4-1. And Winter, you're down to 1-4, unfortunately. I had the lead pretty much all Sunday, and it was a write-off from there, right? Until you had Breeze kind of bring back the score a bit. Breeze 27.22 points made our matchup look a lot closer, but you and I both know it was over long before then. For me, Cooper Kupp performed until he got concussed. My biggest ad, I think, of the year, like this was some perfect coaching. I picked up the Cincinnati defense, who put up 22 points. I needed all those points this week. I got a little bit lucky. They had 2 defensive touchdowns. I was watching that game. Their defense had no turnovers, and then when they did, they were for touchdowns. So that was really nice to see. And then Big Ben for me has been solid, especially when he's at home. On your side of it all, Zach Ertz has been a huge tight end, and him and Carson Wentz will continue to perform. 22 points from Zach Ertz this week, and I bet you he'll put up something like that every week while Carson Wentz is his quarterback. It's just always huge to have, man. Having a tight end who puts up points gives you the automatic advantages. I got 9.9 from Njoku this week, and that was a big week for my tight end. I hadn't had that many points from my tight end position. So to get points from your tight end, it's always like kind of like bonus points in my opinion. But otherwise, your team underproduced or underperformed. It wasn't, Jarvis Landry, 9.4. Julio Jones, that guy. Do you want me to announce it now? You said to me, Julio Jones might be on the trade block. I would throw trades out his way because he has been underperforming. He doesn't have any touchdowns. Only 62 yards this week. The Steelers, this matchup too with the Steelers, it looked like an easy matchup for Atlanta, and they just couldn't get it done. I don't know. I don't know what to say. But Aaron Jones, I'd say, is the guy to just hold on, man. He's coming. He's coming. I don't see Jamal Williams or Ty Montgomery doing enough to take over that job, and it's going to be the Aaron Jones show before long. And then your bench, obviously, Fournette being out has been so drastically bad for you. Marquise Goodwin, yet again, another guy that's hurt, and you had Tariq Cohen on bye. And then Chris Hogan, who you tried to trade away, and now you have him back. He's been bad, really, really bad. Anyways, guys, that was another great week. I love how close it is. It was a big waiver wire. Corey Clement and Wendell Smallwood is kind of like the first big waiver wire, in my opinion, where a starting running back, a number 1 running back, all the Eagles' backfield is kind of muddy, but a big injury out for the year is kind of like, all right, like now there's a waiver wire that's obvious. It's like this is the guy. It was either Corey Clement or Wendell Smallwood. So it was nice. It was kind of fun to do that. Fun to have. I thought more people would be bidding. I'm surprised a lot of you guys were happy with your backfields. Maybe you don't like the Eagles. I know you don't like the Eagles, Kyle. But yeah, great week, guys. I'm excited for Thursday, tomorrow, big game. Who's playing in it? I'm blanking at this very, very moment. Eagles and Giants, as I just said, the Eagles. Yeah, that'll be fun, Kyle. I'm sure you're pumped about that. So let's see some more trades, boys. Let's see some great matchups, and hopefully I'll have a more energetic recap next week. Have a good one, guys.